Hashut is not happy with me. I haven't painted many chorfs for the channel, but that's going to change today. Welcome back to Emblem of Doom Miniatures. My name is Deets. Now I really need to get a move on with painting my Chaos Dwarf army. I painted some big boys like the Lamassu, the Great Taurus, and I've also painted a group of 10 monopos, little chorf bellas when I first started the channel. But that's pretty much about it. And I have said a few times that it's Year of the Chorf here at AOD, and I haven't painted much else. But my friends, that's about to change today because praise Hashut, we are going to paint a classic Chaos Dwarf Death Rocket. And stick around to the end of the video as I'm going to pile everything I've got together, all my Chaos Dwarf units, my army, everything I've painted and haven't painted, and we'll run through what my Chaos Dwarf army is looking like and what I aim to have done hopefully by the end of the year. Anyway, let's get straight into it. I started off this week, like most weeks, wondering what I wanted to paint. I even asked my awesome patrons in the AOD Discord what they would like to see, and the majority voted for the High Elf Pegasus. I may have attracted a few High Elf simps to the Discord, who knows. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my hands on any epoxy resin, so that kit's gonna have to wait. We can all blame Bunnings Warehouse for this, but I took it as a sign from Hashut himself that he wanted his angry big-hatted boys represented. And Big Daddy Hashut gets what Big Daddy Hashut wants. After smashing out a pretty large kit bash over the past few weeks, I really need to paint something fun and quick. And I mainly do this to avoid burnout because every now and then I can feel it kind of setting in. This small piece of artillery really does the trick. It has enough going on to make it feel like I'm making progress on my Chaos Dwarf army, and it's not another batch paint, so thank God for that. It's time to tackle the red armor and parts of the rocket with my usual red recipe. I find this color combo gives an extremely rich and warm tone. Now, instead of mixing in white to lighten, I use orange tones. There are some great ways to highlight your reds with white, but for Old Hammer miniatures, I like the highly saturated look. I've yet to find another red combo that slaps as hard as this one, but if you have any recommendations, throw them down in the comments below, and I'd love to have an experiment one day. After I've done a couple thin coats of my base, I like to give it all a wash with some Flesh Tearers red. Now, if you're trying this, make sure you water down the Flesh Tearers red a fair bit, as it's pretty potent. From here I use Evil Suns in a semi-glaze-like consistency, and I start applying my first highlights. Now with Chaos Dwarfs, the longest and most painful part of painting these guys is highlighting each scale on the armor. This took me so damn long, but you really do get a sense of accomplishment when you start to see the highlights build and the readability increase. It's like anything in life, take your time, trust the process, stop whinging and get on with it. There was a lot of red to get through on these guys, so I am happy I pushed this to the front of the painting queue, as everything from here on out will be a little easier. Recently, I've been approaching my painting as a bit of a game and trying to get the larger parts done first. While I'm not bored of the mini or feeling fatigued, it just helps me stay motivated to get it done. Now, red and black really seems to be the way to go when painting your Chaos Dwarf armies, but I like a pop of color, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue to these guys. I'm going to apply the blue to the big hats and the big rocket that one of these boys is holding onto, but I want to transition from a darker blue in the bottom to a lighter blue up the top to give it some dimension and emulate some light. I slap on a base of Techless Blue and Vallejo Ultramarine Blue all over, and I'm not being that neat with the hat because I'll paint over these decorations later on. Now it's time for the tricky part, and it's time to get glazing. I've said it once and I'll say it again, but apart from edge highlighting, glazing is a pretty important tool to learn if you want to take your painting up a notch. It can make a good painted mini great. I glaze pure Techless Blue upwards, and I'm making sure my paint is watered down slightly, and I test the paint on my thumb or wet palette before applying it to the mini. Also, my brush strokes are going in the direction I want the lighter blue paint to sit. I work my way through Lotham Blue, then to Blue Horror for that final highlight. The rocket turned out better than what I thought, and if I just painted it one color, the mini would have looked quite flat. To keep up with the popping color theme, I'm going to introduce some yellow to the scheme, to their hat decorations and the masked chorf's gloves. I don't know why, but in that moment of deciding what color to choose, I thought yellow would look good as fire retardant gloves. Clearly I forgot that rubber dishwashing gloves are yellow as well, but that's okay. Maybe he's a good chorf husband and doing his part around the house by washing up those dishes to keep the misso happy after a long day of firing rockets, and he gets 2 uses out of the gloves. Regardless, they do give him some character, and I really do love a good bright yellow on a mini. I could just leave the cannon part of the rocket black, but I want to give it a little bit of shading and lighting, so I slap on a glaze of black and Dark Reaper along the top of the barrel, and then I move on to pure Dark Reaper, and last up I mix in a small amount of Thunderhawk Blue to the Dark Reaper and apply it over the top, just to a smaller area. Again, I keep these paints fairly watered down and I clean up the sides with some watered down black, just to help blend it together. I'm pretty happy with how these boys and their little artillery piece are looking, but there's a lot of flat surfaces, so it would be rude not to add a freehand here or there. I'm going to do a big old lightning bolt on the Death Rocket's barrel to match their funky little hats. When I'm freehanding, I like to keep my hands loose, make sure I'm sitting comfortably, and have a reference image handy on my computer screen next to me. I like to sketch down straight lines and then fill in the shape after. I'm using the same yellow recipe from before, and after I'm happy with the shape of the bolt, I add edge highlights around it, making sure the brighter yellows are towards the sharp corners. After I finished the cannon, I then decided to tackle the Chaos rocket, and I really do love the way the yellow stands out against the blue. Every time I finish a freehand, I think I deserve a beer just for getting through the stress. Now, one thing that's pretty funny about this Death Rocket is that it looks like it can only angle downwards with the way it's been designed. It seems like the barrel has reached max elevation, and in the real world it would be really hard to use unless you were on a hill aiming downwards. I've seen a few people online kit bash it to make more sense, but I think things like this give it character. Anyway, the next big task was to get the true metallic metals down, and just like the reds, there was a lot of ground to cover. I based all the silver with gunmetal, the gold cog underneath the barrel with Gehenna's gold, and then I gave them all a wash with Nuln oil and some Gulliman flesh washed to the gold. I then worked up some highlights with Runefang steel and some Vallejo silver for the last spot highlight. I even busted out the dry brush for the bulkier part of the Death Rocket to save myself some time. I don't often do this, but on war machines like this, it works a treat and it's quick and easy. Now it's time to wrap this up and get those precious little black beards done. To do this is fairly simple. I mix up 1 part Ulthuan Grey to 5 parts Abaddon Black and try my best to highlight each beard ringlet. I'm not too concerned if I get any in the recesses at this point. I then mix in some more Ulthuan Grey to the mix until I get a mid-grey colour, and then I go back over being a little bit more careful. Last up is a highlight of pure Ulthuan Grey. And praise for Shut, these grumpy little men and their Death Rocket are now complete, and here they are. So with the Death Rocket now complete, I now have a small force of painted Chaos Dwarfs, well, tiny force of Chaos Dwarfs, and I've never had them all kind of stacked out together like this, all together in one big group, and it does give me a lot of motivation when I do this. But also looking at all these guys, I do realize that I've got a long way to go and a lot of painting to do and a lot of collecting to do as well. So you might be wondering what's next, and I have a few Black Orcs to paint, and I'm going to include those guys in my army. I've painted the champion, so that's something as well, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to paint these guys very, very soon. I also have a Hobgoblin Bolt Thrower and crew, and now I think about it, I probably should have batch painted that thing with the Death Rocket because I wanted to keep the color similar, but oh well. And I also have the big boy, which is the Earthshaker cannon, and I'm really excited to paint that, but I think I'll save that one for a special occasion, maybe at the end of the year, or maybe it's the last Chaos Dwarf unit I paint. And also in the mix, I've got a couple heroes here, like this Chaos Sorcerer on foot, and also this classic Astrogoth miniature as well. And I've never really seen him painted up that well, so I'm looking forward to doing that and trying to push that one out and make it look really, really good. I'm after some blunderbusses, and I did see them on eBay a few months ago or a few weeks ago, but they were selling for like $250. And I also saw some of the bull centaurs as well, and I think it was like 6 of them selling for $250. So I'm not paying $500 for all that. I'll probably have to find some others somewhere else and keep sleuthing on Facebook Marketplace and on eBay. Film Deg Miniatures kindly sent me out this bull centaur, but I'm going to wait until I have a full crew of them and probably do a batch paint for you guys on bull centaur. Also, eventually I'm going to get my hands on some sneaky gits and some Hobgoblin Wolf Riders and a unit of Hobgoblin to kind of flesh it out and make the army complete. And eventually I want to enter in armies on parade and build a green base for them, something that you would have seen in a classic White Dwarf magazine. I thought that would be pretty fun, and I'll probably do that in a later video down the track when they're all finished, so you'll probably be waiting a few years for that, unfortunately, because I'm so slow at painting my Chaos Dwarfs. That's pretty much it, my dudes. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end, and I want to say a massive thank you to all my Patreon members. You guys are a bunch of legends. I say it every single week, but thank you so much for supporting the channel. I couldn't do it without you guys. If you want to join the Anvil of Doom Patreon, the link is in the bio. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share the video with your friends, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.